Today I'm joined by Alex Hill. Alex is the managing director of Whitecode Consulting, and they're the leading building services consultancy in the large residential and mixed-use housing developments in the Greater London area. So, welcome, Alex.
Hello, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me along.
it's great. It's great. Thank you for joining us. So, Alex, just tell us a little bit about Whitecode Consulting and what you do.
So very simply, we're mechanical and electrical designers or building services consultants. So we are pure design. We don't do any install work, and we design, building systems effectively. So um, every part of what makes a building tick is our job. Well, as if you think about the core design team and think about a triangle, you have an architect who is the top of the triangle. He says, "I want to make a building, that looks like a gherkin made of glass." And the structural engineer on the left hand side of the triangle says, "Well, it can't be just the glass. We've got to have some structure and steel to hold the building up." And then we make the building work. So without us, uh, architects and structural engineers build sheds. So we make the building come alive, the lighting, the heating, the ventilation. So, if you think of us like the designers of your inner body, architects of the skin, structural engineers, the skeleton, and we do the veins and the electrical systems that make the buildings tick, really. So yeah, we do everything from one-off housing, large mixed-use schemes, residential, schools, offices, Ministry of Justice, and we've got contracts at the Houses of Parliament, so, and everything in between, really. So yeah, we've experienced. So if it's got a pipe or a wire in it, we're an expert in knowing why it does what it does, or doesn't do what it does, which is quite often the first phone call that I get. Something's not working quite right.
Okay. Well, actually, that was a really great explanation. I like the analogies there and everything. So look, if I understand it correctly, I think the business was sort of set up back in the 1990s. Is that correct?
It's
Uh,
actually our 30th year officially trading. I mean, we're formed on the 22nd of December. So
oh,
technically, this is our 30th year.
that's it.
I was employee number one in September of 1994. So actually, I will have worked here 30 years. So I was the first employee. There are 85 staff. And actually, just to mention that we've got an office in Birmingham and an office in Durban, South Africa. So two continents, and the commutes are very different.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you have to go to those offices much yourself, Alex? Or
Yeah, so Birmingham, next Birmingham trip next week, I think. No, this week, Thursday. Birmingham Thursday and Durban just after Easter. No, just before Easter, April. I try and get there once a year, twice a year, ideally, but at least once a year, meet the staff, meet the new joiners, solve some business challenges. Been very interesting dealing with the same problems, but in a completely different place. So yeah, opening an office, which we did in April last year in Birmingham, was a walk in the park compared to trying to do the same in Durban. Well, we're out of West Durban, Botus Hill. So
well, interesting. Look, out of interest, why Durban?
um, I suppose this is a big business lesson. We don't outsource, we insource.
Okay.
And we a lot of our competitors send work to external companies, and we trialed it. We tried using some external resource. So for drafting, really, for us, it was more about drafting. And we tried outsourcing, and very simply, you haven't got the amount of control that you've got when you insource.
Okay.
Why Durban? It's on the same time zone, really. They're about 2 hours ahead at the moment, and about an hour in their summer. They speak English as a first language, which was another problem we had with outsourcing to India, and some of our competitors use the Philippines. And you can the pound to the rand is roughly 123 to the pound, so we get it's very good value drawing out there as it. And in fact, if I could have double the size of operation out there, I probably would. Because we still occasionally have to outsource, and it goes against every principle within my body that I'd rather be, I'd rather insource than outsource.
Yeah, so interesting. So, because South Africa is very popular at the moment for people outsourcing to, but you've sort of taken a slightly different view on that and said actually we're going to open an office in Durban.
Yeah, yeah.
So not, as you've clearly explained there, not to outsource, but just to add certain operations there that can be done efficiently and effectively and on a.
Why would I want to buy an administrator in the UK currently when I could get one there for a quarter of the salary?
Yeah, yeah,
as long as it can be done remotely, it's fine. I suppose it's a big step to open an office in another country. You do need somebody with some on the ground knowledge. You do, without that, and even with that on the ground knowledge, the stuff that we found out along the way, we bought our premises out there, so we own it outright. And doing that and dealing with the legals and just all of the things that come with it, and but you've just got to have, like everything, trusted advisors in that area, and a man on the ground or a woman on the ground or whatever it might be, and you can get through it. It for me has been really the turning point here. Also, there's a very low turnover of staff. We're very low anyway here because of our other model, which is very different from a lot of other companies. So we make our own engineers. We try not to hire them in qualified if we can help it, because we're having a great experience. So I left Wilmington Grammar School 30 years ago. I've kept in contact with that school ever since, and since the company's been going in 30 years, we've employed and trained 70 engineers. Quite a majority of them still work for me, and that means we've got people that live around here that know other people within the company, and therefore it's a bit more of a family environment here, where you've got people that know other people, and you therefore don't get such a big turnover of staff. And that's something that I think is tantamount to our success, really, is that if you've got people that want to work here, we've got a nice environment. And we've taken exactly the same approach in South Africa, in that we're dealing with local schools, we're trying to employ local people, friends of friends, so that they want to work there and they want to see everybody around and do well. And there's no other agendas, if that makes sense. So we found that works really well for us.
Using a football analogy, you've created an academy effectively, where you bring people in and you help them to grow and develop. And
put it this way, at the end of their apprenticeship, which we now get through via the government scheme, which we didn't do, used to cost us $6,000 per person per year. Now it costs me 600 quid for 5 years. We can take on more students, and we give them a full-time job, and they do 1 day a week at university. So they get a degree out of it for free. So there's no cost to them.
Yeah.
They don't have any student debt. And by the end of it, they've got 5 years experience. And I tell you now, at the end of that 5 years, they are better than anyone coming out of the market who's a graduate, been in the industry for a couple of 3 years. They still get paid good salaries, and they're better value for us. And the problem is when we get people coming in from university, when they've got a degree, they've got 50, 60 grand's worth of student debt. They need to be paid 30, 35 grand a year just to pay their student debt off. They're just not worth it for us.
No.
So, we can build people's salaries from starting on a low base and build them up to that point. And by the end of it, they're flying at that point. And they've got good industry experience, and they're well qualified, and they've been trained by us. So we're a training and development company for our professional institute. There's only 21 of them in the country, so they're on an approved training scheme. So they get to the end of it, and they get a quick tick early journey for members of the engineering council. So, it's very attractive. So we've been very focused on being as attractive a place to work that isn't in the smoke of London. I think that's been quite, and lockdown has really, I suppose, has really changed people's view of doing that slog on a train into London every day, and people have pushed out and want to work more locally, you know. So I think that that's been a real benefit to us.
So
Yeah,
you mentioned there that the company was founded nearly 30 years ago. You've been from the beginning. You're now, I mentioned at the beginning, I introduced you as that you're now the managing director. I think you've been the managing director for 13 years. Is that right, roughly?
yeah. So we created a group. So we had some other companies. So the design bit was what I focused on. And yeah, I mean, I think if I had my time again, I'd like to have bought the company out 10 years before, because of the success we've had since. It's really all been my say. I
Yeah,
think that's one of the things that I've learned in my journey, that I'm going to check out much earlier than my previous owner,
right.
because you get to a point of irrelevance in your own industry and you don't keep up to date with the latest stuff. And he was at a point where financially he didn't maybe be as ambitious as not just me, but the team below me.
Yeah,
And you've always got to have an eye on what's best for the people below you, because ultimately they are going to replace you, and they're the people you probably want to sell to
absolutely.
moreover than anybody else. So I actually have a succession plan, which is currently what I'm working on, so that I can check out early. I don't want to be, well, he's 70s before he checked out. I that's just nuts. From my perspective, get to a point, have an exit plan, and hand it over to them, and give them all the guidance that you can give them, and then let them see them do their own thing with it. And I think that's the bit that I've been focused on. Is I've got plenty of other things to go off and do. I'm directors of other businesses and shareholders of other businesses, and there becomes a point where you've built something and you've got to hand it over to the next generation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sorry, excuse me. We all exit our business at some stage. It's just whether that is a designed exit or not. And what you've sort of said there is you're thinking about that exit and designing it, putting into place a succession plan so that you can do that at the right time for you, the right time for the business, the right time for the team, whoever the sort of successors may be. Because and we briefly spoke about this before we came on, but you did a management buyout of the business, what, 5-6 years ago?
Yeah, in the middle of lockdown. I'm the only nutter to buy a company actually in lockdown.
Yeah.
July 2020 when I signed the deal.
Yeah.
And there was a huge amount of uncertainty at that point. No one knew what the hell we were going to be doing. We were going, this will all be over by September.
Yeah.
And then we went into second lockdown. So yeah, it was I mean, it was a difficult time to buy a business, but the first thing I did, even before I bought the business, is I was sitting there it was like April. And so I didn't have full control, and therefore I maybe shouldn't have been making these absolute financial decisions, because that was one problem. Is the previous owner wanted to know a lot about what you were doing, and there wasn't that much freedom. I marketed. I actually interviewed marketing teams in lockdown.
Okay.
I could see that I had little to do other than scroll on LinkedIn and see what everybody else was doing. Mm. And I thought, if I'm doing that, so's everybody else.
Yeah.
So we marketed. And really, that has probably been the best decision that I've taken. Is my old chairman used to say, we're not selling sweets, so we don't need to market. This is a word of mouth business. He is absolutely wrong. Mm. All I've done is I've just said how well we're doing on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And how, how successful we've been. And, and then I've added a bit of fun. This is me. So I do something on LinkedIn, which any of your listeners and viewers can do. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I do Where's the Wally? Okay. So I like to take a picture of myself, ideally with some building services like a big fat pump or a big fat fan, and then I get people to guess where I am. Sometimes it's just in front of the Bull at Birmingham, where am I, Birmingham New Street? And I'll give a bottle of champagne out to anybody who guesses it first.
Yeah.
It's very simple, but there's normally a bit of a flavour, a bit of a building services related, twinge. And so, yeah, we try and I try and mix it up where I'm going or what I'm doing, and yeah, why I'm doing it. So it all started with standing in front of these really, really big pumps that were painted yellow. And I did not know that Lloyd's of London, the colour of Lloyd's is yellow. And actually that building is listed. It's the newest listed building that we've got. And that colour is listed. And I was asking the guy, why are the pumps you've got there to change one of the pumps that was broken red? And he said, well, we can't get them in yellow. We have to bring that yellow in and we have to paint them. And it's part of the listing that they must go back yellow. And I went, oh, that's quite interesting. I'm sure people know this plant room. Let me get a selfie in front of the pumps and I'll throw it out there and see who found it. And it went like absolutely off the scale. LinkedIn sent me messages saying you're the top 5% engagement in LinkedIn and stuff. So yeah, and I try and do it not every month. I like, it's got to be something that interests me, like I've got to go, oh, let me get a selfie in front of that, and then I'll put it out there to try and generate a bit of interest.
Yeah, those sort of things. Those small sort of things can have real impact. Build presence and
it just made LinkedIn a bit more interesting for people. And a lot of people have said, in fact, I've had people cross over, industry events and go, oh, thanks for the bottle of champagne, and I've never met them, but they're in the industry, people don't know. So yeah, we've
great strategy, and thank you for sharing.
Yeah, it lightened the mood a bit, and it made it a bit more interesting, and they got a bit more engagement, and and people, and also, look, it's a bit of silliness in the world full of seriousness. So I like to try and do that, but then equally, there's some serious stuff I put on LinkedIn and articles, and it helps with your engagement. So we track our engagement, and we track how we do. And what I can tell you is that work means that I've got the most diverse client list that you could ever imagine. We regularly get once a week, twice a week, we get inquiries just from random people looking for what we do. And so my team, who were initially skeptical, absolutely everybody's on board with it now. Just thinks it's the best thing that we've ever done.
Brilliant. No, absolutely excellent. And so what would you say the biggest challenges that you've faced being a business owner, Alex?
So what did I do when I took over in 2020? Because what I felt like for the previous 25 years, there was no strategy, there was no plan, there was no goal, there was no target. It was just, we're doing quite well, we do this, oh, there's another job. And then there was no concentrated plan. But equally, there was no assessment of what didn't work within the business, because every plan has to also assess where you sat. So I needed somebody to create a plan, and I used a company that's actually an ex-director bumped into somebody on the train, and they use military events to form business strategy, and it was quite an interesting concept. And doing a bit of military work still, I quite like the idea of it. So we actually sat at Southwark Park, which is where they planned D-Day, and we planned our D-Day. So we analysed what was wrong with the business, we allocated who was going to fix it, and what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. And then within the board, we said, right, okay, you're going to do that and you're going to do that. And then we're going to get to the beginning of I think it was 2022 or something. And then I was going to be allowed to put my foot on the gas and sell like you've never seen and get as much work in. And then everyone was going to fix it. And that's what we did. And we actually, but one of the key things that I suppose what was the biggest problem was staff retention.
Okay.
People wanting to work for us and not leaving, because you invest all this time in people and then they just go. And you're like, right. So we looked at what was wrong, what was causing us to be a problem. and we fixed it. So the building where we lived wasn't great, so we went and bought a building, and we decorated it well, and we spent £5 on a coffee machine, and we got a pool table with our logo on it, and and then it was like, well, we don't, people don't want to work here, so we created an environment they wanted to come that was like a posh London office. So we've done that bit, and then we didn't have benefits, so we created a benefits package, and we did have medical cover, and we did all of those things, and then we benchmarked all our salaries against everyone else, and now everybody that's left here of any note has been sniffing around to want to come back. So the biggest challenge we had really was not assessing what was wrong with the business and having a plan to fix it. And I can see in the industry now people that I work with similar issues, and the business owners just not addressing it. And then I see a staff member leave, and I see another staff, and I think I know exactly. And I've spoken to this bit. I said, look, you need to do these things. It sounds mad, but it will ultimately save you money. So I'm not the biggest fan of recruitment consultants out there.
Yeah,
I'm not the biggest fan. I don't see great benefit to them, but they're a necessary evil at times. But I'd rather they didn't exist, because ultimately we don't need somebody to go and recruit for us if the brand is strong enough that people want to come and work for us. So actually, the money we've spent on benefits for staff, we've reduced our recruitment consultants' fees.
Yeah.
So although it initially looks like you're spending money, you will gain that back in staff turnover reduction. So if anybody out there is struggling to hold on to people, then just follow those steps. Assess what's not right and just fix it. So yeah, we fixed it.
Obviously there's a lot to it, but as you say, it's a very simple process, isn't it? Like, identify what's wrong, and then, as you say, have a plan in place for how are we going to fix that, and then obviously do that, take action. And like, I completely agree with you, Alex. It's, I look at recruitment the same as sales. But it's about attracting people to your business, whether that be your future customers and clients, or whether it's being people that want to work for you, and they're looking at your website saying that's going to be a great place to work. They're speaking to your existing employees that are telling them what a great place it is to work.
And it's also not being afraid to listen to your staff, because one of the things that we didn't do is have staff engagement meetings. We didn't tell our staff how well we're doing. We didn't involve them in the finances. We didn't tell them about profit. We didn't tell them about sales. And there's a few books that people put me onto about, the great game of business being one of them. Share this information and people will actually care, because if you connect how well we're doing to their bonuses, they'll actually push for it. And now I haven't quite gone as far as he suggests, but we're getting there. And one of the things also that people have really liked, and so once a month we sit our staff down, we give them a bacon sandwich or a sausage sandwich, and I tell them how well we're doing, and I congratulate people, and I welcome people to the company, and I tell them about stuff that's happening, and I engage them. That engagement and actually what started to happen is I got busy and I went off on meetings, and the feedback came back that everybody really liked when I stood up with my level of enthusiasm and said, well done, everyone. They really like that. And so now it becomes an immovable object within my diary that, in the middle of the board meeting at 10 o'clock, we stop the board meeting and I sit down with everyone, and they all get a sausage sandwich or whatever, and we just tell everyone how well we're doing. And actually, my board director in South Africa, he calls it breakfast with the boss, and he does the same thing. And then once a year, we have breakfast with the big boss, where I will do it with the staff. And they really appreciate you spending that time out of your day to just thank them for their efforts.
I think what that reminds us as well is that one of the main roles of, if not the main role of, a managing director of the business is leadership.
Yeah.
And what does a leader need to be doing? Needs to be, engaging with their team, whether that be a military leader or a sports team or in a business. That is actually one of, if not the main role of a managing director, to be leading the team, which means engaging them. So you're absolutely right. It's one of those things that can fall to one side, but it's really, really important to.
The problem is you have to. For me, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, you're not enthusiastic about what you're doing, you're not communicating your plan, how can you ever expect your business to be doing well? So for me, like I said, I still do some military stuff, and I've just taken over an area there. And the first thing I've done is I've sat down with my team, we've got a plan, and I've stood up in front of everyone and told everyone the plan. And the feedback is just like, we've never had this before, and it's almost like a sea change. People going, this is just brilliant. And the wave of enthusiasm by going, oh, actually, we need a plan. Even if you sit down and create it yourself, I would always encourage you to use somebody to help you that's skilled in that plan making. But you still need little micro plans as well. You never, like the army saying, is no plan survives contact.
Yeah.
Right. So you get your plan out, you lay it down, and it goes wrong day one. But it's how you adapt your plan. Like I said, the staff feedback, it's what they want to hear. If you look at all the analogies around, people don't necessarily always stay for money. I know people who work for a very big company because they get paid well, but they get treated awfully, but they put up with it. But everybody gets to the end of their tether and they go, right, I'm done now. I'm out of that company. And we are trying not to do that. I've got people on my board that I gave work experience in year 9, and now they're on my board. We believe in long-term employment, people enjoying what they do, people feeling valued and getting paid well. And that, if you think about all of those things, if they're doing well and they're happy, you'll be doing well and you'll be happy. Yeah. So for me, it's that link between their happiness and your happiness. And there's a lot of business owners out there who are like, your bonus is still to have a job. There's one. I do have a business partner who says that. I've heard him say it. Bonus. Your bonus is you've still got a job. That is not always the best approach. And one of the things that we really show for culture in here is needing to do overtime. We want people to have some time off.
Yeah.
And work from home. I was the worst from working home. What do you mean you're working from home, sitting in your pants? Now we just like, it will get done. If people are conscientious and good at their job, the work will get done.
Yeah.
And you just got to trust people. There are people out there that do take the mickey, and you have to deal with them. But equally, you've got to. If somebody says they're going to do it from home and they're going to work from home, generally they will.
Yeah, I agree. And if you don't trust your employees to work from home, then they shouldn't be working for you.
I think that's one of the key things.
Yeah. So look, there's one question I like to ask everybody that comes on to this discussion, which is, what's the best advice you would give to an 18-year-old you, Alex?
Go and be a lawyer, because they're the only ones that win. I think I should have got my previous owner out of the business earlier.
Right. Okay.
He was clever enough to involve me as a director when I was quite young and give me some shares and to hook me in. But I should have sat him down and said, no, enough's enough. When are you going? I'm going to buy you out. And I should have really pushed that agenda, because do you know what? In 5 years, we are a completely different animal. If it had been 15 years, this would be an unbelievable size business. So, the one thing I didn't do was I let it become his timeline rather than mine.
Okay.
And I could see realistically for at least 5 years before, no, more like 10, that really and he would talk the talk, and he would say, oh, I'm going to go, and all of that. And actually, no. What I should have done is gone, right, now, this is the plan. And I should have gone to him realistically with a proper plan. And I think, and I don't think it would have been a no. I just think there would be some challenges like everything. And, every sale can often be like a divorce, and ours was a divorce. Because there was bits we needed to unpick as well. And, but I think I should have sat down a lot earlier with a strategy for his exit, that I was almost saying, no, this is what's going to happen, or I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And I should have put it in those terms more than anything really, and created a different exit point. And I can see that I've got to do that. I can see it, but he couldn't.
Yeah.
So if assuming that everybody thinks the way you think is also a big mistake.
Yeah.
Set your own agenda and march everybody to it, not the other way around.
Yeah. No, look, great advice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Alex. And well, look, Alex, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and sharing more about, your business and also your journey as well. So thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. It's been an interesting chat.